All right, we are here. Captain Peter Deeks, Joe Simons, Lake Diamonds,
doing
baby. A little fishing.
Oh, here you go. I just got hit.
Oh, dude, that was fast.
Did you see that?
That was fast.
All right, I'm gonna let him hit for
So
a
we
sec.
got live bait. Oh yes!
Oh, he dropped it.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
That was a big giant trout. So whenever you're fishing these big live baits, like this big mullet, if you lose one, open your bail and drift it back. He's gonna look for it again.
And so we just did a tip to with our insider members about this active live bait fishing. You call it your live bait management, where bail's open. This is not put it in the rod holder. This is literally feeding the line out to the fish. And we know there's some back here. Why did we choose this area?
So we're just fishing the edge right here, these mangroves, and there's been some big trout and snook just laid up on this edge here. So we're drifting our baits, making them look real natural and just drifting them right down this edge. No tension on them, and that's how we're getting the strikes. That was a big trout. See if he comes back for it.
And so, did you set it too fast? What happened? I was so pumped up starting the podcast here.
So, when you're drifting, if you're fishing for really big fish, right, you got to get the strike first. So you've got big baits.
Yeah.
You're feeding a lot of line out, and you're focused on making your bait look natural so that the fish is going to eat it. But when you do that, it makes it more difficult to set the hook because you got a lot of line out there and you got a giant bait. So what you want to do is reel as fast as you can until you start hearing a little bit of drag, and then set the hook hard. If you can't tear the hook out of the bait and into the fish, you're not going to hook them. And that's what I just did. But it's fine, so you just drift it back and we'll get him again here, one of his buddies. But you will lose a few fish because of this technique. But if you keep your line tight, you keep it close to the boat and use smaller baits, you're not going to get the strike.
Yeah.
So
we've got these things tail hooked right now, right?
Yep.
Oh, you got
tail hook.
Oh, I thought you were going tight, dude.
It's going to happen.
Getting
and
me
we're
pumped.
just drifting them down.
Getting me pumped. So tail hook, J hook, right?
If you're hooked in the tail, J hook. If you're hooked in the nose, use a circle hook.
And then even if it's a circle hook, as we talked about in that earlier tip, you're still having to yank it because you're basically just trying to make sure that the hook is getting out of this big bait.
Exactly, yeah. You're trying to pop the hook out of the bait so that you can then hook the fish. So you're not trying, like your hooks are sharp. You don't have to wrench it into the fish. You're just, ooh, he came back. You guys ready?
Yes, sir.
He's chasing my bait. I don't know if he's got it yet.
Oh, I see it.
Okay, he got it. He got it right there.
Reel.
Oh shoot, he's coming past the boat. Gotta keep me on.
Yes! Dude, that's a nice one, bro.
Yes, he was.
Yes.
He's not that big. I think his little brother came and got him.
Dang, dude. Hey, I'm used to Tampa Bay trout, man. That's still a beautiful trout. Heck yeah. That's a little bit bigger than the ones that we were catching when we were trolling into Cody. Dude, that was crazy. He was actually coming out the boat.
Yes, you just reel till you hear the drag and then set that hook.
You guys are listening to this on the podcast. You have to come watch this video. Hopefully Cody got all that in there. Peter was basically having to reel in, I don't know, looked like 20 or so yards of line as fast as you could. That's a beautiful fish, man.
It is. Now the coolest thing, I'm gonna come down here and grab this little guy, but
So let's see where he's hooked.
it's perfect right there on the bottom jaw.
Yep.
Let my hand.
So I fished with Captain Deeks many times, and I'll catch a trout like that. I think it's an amazing fish, and Deeks is like, come on, we can't even take a picture of that.
Yeah, he's a little guy.
That's a beautiful, beautiful trout.
But it's the coolest thing about fishing for, I'm gonna get him back in the water. When you're fishing for really big fish, you're gonna catch a lot of smaller fish. If you focus on smaller fish, you're lucky to get small fish. So it's pretty cool. If you're out here targeting big ones, that fish we just caught's a really small one. He was probably 22 inches. If you're focusing on the like 16 to 18 inch trout and you're just hoping to catch them, if that's the best that you're gonna do is like a 16 or an 18 inch trout. So my love and desire is to fish for really big fish, and your side catch is gonna be smaller fish, but they're still pretty big. So it's pretty cool. If you can focus and dedicate yourself on the bigger fish, your fishing game is gonna get bigger, and you're gonna catch a lot of fish, and then your 18 inch fish are gonna be your smaller ones.
All right, so let's talk about, we're gonna talk about the when, where, what, why, meaning the tides. where, like, why this kind of area? Obviously, the spot doesn't really matter per se. It's the type of spot. Why do you like little, coves like this, mangroves? Like, what's the depth? What are we? What's an ideal spot to get these bigger?
So first of all, you have to see them. You have to know that they're there, whether it's on your fish finder or if it's with your eyes. So spend some time, know the fish are there. Everybody has a spot where they think the fish are, but go through, look. If you see the fish, you can come back an hour later. And then once you know they're there, that's step one. And step two, you got to get those big fish to eat, right?
All right, what if you don't know they're there?
You got to find them.
Okay.
This is not a technique you use to just fish and hope you're going to catch something.
Yeah. So how about this? I guess a better question. What's this time of year, what's an ideal habitat, depth, everything else? Is there a certain type of bait, these big, let's just talk about trout.
Okay.
So what's like an ideal type of spot and depth type of area to catch the big ones? Because we already did a podcast before where we talked about, we called it Trout on Demand. We caught a bunch of dinks.
Yeah.
They were all in a little small hole of a flat.
Yep.
This doesn't look like the same.
So we're approaching spring. So depending on where you live, if it's starting to warm now. So we're in March.
Yeah.
Weather's getting warmer. The big trout are becoming more active, and they're pushing shallow. So the big trout in East Central Florida and West Central, the big trout are the first fish to move out up shallow on the flats. So a lot of the redfish, they'll still be around structure. A lot of your smaller trout are going to be in the holes. The big trout are the first ones up on the flats. So you want to look for them where there's a lot of bait, mullet, maharas, any kind of bait fish. And you want to look on sandbars and shallow flats close to where they were this winter, which is usually residential canals.
Okay.
So right on the other side of these mangroves here is deep water. There's a bunch of residential docks. Same thing back over here. So this is like the first place those big trout come up to feed when the water starts to warm.
Got it. And what's your favorite type of bait? I know mullet, pinfish.
You kind of want to match the hatch. So fish with whatever's around, but get the biggest you can. So there's a lot of mullet around here.
Such an elephant hunter, dude.
Fish for big fish.
Oh, mine's getting antsy. Dude, get another bait on, man.
Right.
Don't wait for the camera. This is all live. We go unedited. That means, as you guys saw last time, sometimes even dropping fish. Hope you guys learned a lesson on that one. As always, hold the fish with two hands and have someone else take a picture of it. That was a good learning lesson. But no, hopefully you guys are liking these live podcasts. We talked to Peter about doing this. We've had a few other guides. We had one in Alabama, Patrick Garmison. I want to give him a shout out because he had said, "Hey guys, let's do it. Come over to Alabama. I ain't afraid. Let's go film." So hopefully we'll be doing a lot more of these. I think it's really fun just to see real world, not like a fishing show where they only show you the highlights. You might have 3 days worth of fishing and filming all in basically a 21-minute segment. This is a real world, Deeks.
It's the real world, baby.
Dude,
Are you freelining them out there?
Yeah, I got my way out
right,
there.
I'm gonna try right over here on this wall. Keep fishing yours. I don't want to get in your way.
Yeah, just keep filming me, Cody. I don't want
to. He's in the hot seat, baby. Another tip too is like,
so how deep is it right here?
It's probably 2.5 feet.
Oh, it's only 2.5. Dang.
It's pretty shallow. And what you want to do is you want to time it to where the tide and the wind are going together into where you're fishing.
My next question. So what's the tide doing right now?
So the tide's just started coming in. We got the wind to our backs, and so it's pushing the water into this little area right here, and it's allowing our baits to just drift really naturally right up in there.
And so occasionally you want to kind of reel up and get some of the slack line out?
Do it fast. So I'll talk you through it real quick. So what you want to do is clean up your loose line as fast as possible without dragging your bait fish. So just start reeling real fast, Joe. Go ahead. Go. I'll tell you when to stop. Go. Okay, stop right now.
Yeah.
Open your bail real quick.
Yeah.
And then you're slingshotting your bait forward. If you reel up your loose line really slow, it's going to slowly drag your bait fish backwards. So I'll do it right here.
Whoa, he's taking off now.
Is he going to get it?
Oh.
Get him, Joe.
Dang, he stopped. So that was a great tip. Because I think before I was going super slow.
Yeah.
It's so weird without fishing with Slam Shady, you know?
Everything loves a Slam Shady.
He's like, stop talking about Slam Shady.
It's a good lure. But let me show you real quick. See, you've got a lot of loose line out there, and you want to pick it up. Your line is like a train on a track. So even if you've got this big belly in your line, if you're pulling on it, your bait is moving too. It's following your line. So if you check your line kind of slow like this, you're slowly dragging your bait fish backwards if he's hooked in the tail. If he's hooked in the nose, you're bringing him back all that distance you just sent him out. So when you're going to check your line, which I would recommend doing maybe every 2 minutes or so, is that about what we've been doing today?
Yeah.
2 to 5 minutes. Reel it really fast, and as soon as you're tight to your bait, you're going to open your bail, because as soon as you get tight to him, you're going to freak that bait fish out. His little motor's going to start running, and when you open your bail, he's going to take off and he's going to swim about another 10 or 15 feet.
Call that the slingshot, huh?
It's the slingshot, baby. So watch this. So I got a little bit of line out.
Oh, my guy's getting antsy.
Stop right when you're tight to him and open your bail, and then he'll start swimming out. You don't want to stop right when you get kind of tight to your bait, like where you think he is, because you have no idea where that bait fish is at. So super fast, open it up, the bait fish is going to flash, it's going to attract any fish that are near that area. He's also going to shoot out another 10 or 15 feet. And that's the goal of this. We're trying to swim our bait fish as far from the boat as possible to get those big, spooky, wary fish. Your guy's super spooky, isn't he?
Yeah.
Something's close to him.
Yeah. I feel like he's about to get crushed, dude.
Get him.
So what else is back here besides trout? We got maybe a possibility red snook?
So the big snook, the giants, will move up with the trout a little bit. The smaller snook, they'll still stay back kind of off in the areas that they spent the winter.
Good.
There may be some redfish.
See the line going out? Goody. You can see it's so Peter likes to feed it.
Help it out.
Just feed it to him. And so let's talk about the strike.
Okay.
We got a lot of line out here.
Mm-hmm.
I saw yours. I mean, that was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's counterintuitive. A lot of people want to keep it tight as possible. Let's talk about that real quick, and then what happens when you do feel a strike. We're just reeling down like you did as quick as possible, because they're not all going to come to the boat like that. Some of them do an arc.
Some will come swim back, some go away. You don't know what that fish is going to do. But first things first, like, you want to use braided line, because it's super sensitive. You can feel the strike. This is 20-pound braided line. Just, whatever you're comfortable fishing with is fine, as long as it's braided line. And don't worry about feeling that strike. You probably will. I mean, you will if you're using braided line.
Yeah.
But don't worry about feeling it, because you want to get the strike first. Once you get the strike, then you can catch the fish. The fish isn't going to bite your bait. Not going to catch anything.
What's another big problem? I know we talked about it before with live bait. It's just going too heavy. Because even we were going after 40-inch snook earlier, using this exact, what is this, a 4,000?
3,500.
3,500.
Yeah.
40-inch snook.
Mm-hmm.
Get the bite first, right?
Get the bite first.
That's what Deeks always says. Don't try to horse an elephant in. You got to get him hooked first, right?
Get him hooked first.
What else? What are the other
I just noticed, I fish a lot of customers, and so I can get a feel for what the general public and most anglers, how they think and how they respond. And almost everybody that I fish with, they want to feel the bait. They want to know what's going on. They're concerned that they're not going to feel the strike, that they're going to miss the fish. And don't worry about that. Just, you've got a big live bait that's swimming around out there. He's eventually going to get eaten. Just keep it natural.
So tough to do, Deeks.
It's tough it is so, everybody does it. All my clients, eventually when they get tired, they start reeling up, pulling their line tight, they're keeping their bait tight, and the bait doesn't look natural, and they're not going to get the strike.
Mine doesn't seem to be swimming anymore. What's he hiding from, huh?
Hopefully a big trout.
No doubt.
I'm going to throw my bait up there a little bit more.
Yeah, go get him, man. Think I should reel mine in or keep it there?
Pull tight to it, and we'll see right where it's at.
Yeah, I feel like...
That's kind of... You don't have a bait. You got 8. That was that thump.
Oh, dude, that was. Dang. Ding, ding, ding.
And if you show back over here real quick, you can see that we're just keeping the boat at an equal distance down that whole shoreline.
All right, so we know they're out there. Got the power pole down.
Yep.
All right, you gonna trade me?
Yeah.
Dude, you're such a nice guy. So we know they're out there, dude. That's what was it.
Yep, so we keep the boat on the depth that the fish are at, and that way we just drift the baits right down with the current. Right.
All right. So
fish.
anything I could have done differently there?
Yep.
No? You don't have to lie to me, dude. You can tell me.
Yeah, so we're fishing for giant fish.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're doing. So you're not going to catch all of them. You're going to miss some on the hook set. Some are going to eat the bait off. But what you're doing differently is you're keeping your line loose. You're fishing like nobody else does. You're just sending it out there and letting that bait fish do its job.
That's how you get so many
If you close your bail and stick the rod in the rod holder, what's going to happen is your bait fish is going to get tired, it's going to look unnatural, and then it's going to eventually kind of drown and just sit on the bottom, and you might catch a catfish, you might catch a smaller redfish. But to catch these bigger trout and these big snook that we're fishing for, you got to keep it natural.
All right, so let's talk about types of structure. Besides little flats like this, where else are you ever fishing for like docks and stuff? I mean, we've been doing a lot of dock tutorials, and feel free to get a bait, dude. You don't have to.
Okay.
Keep talking to me. Cody picks you up. What other kind of places do you like for bigger trout?
I love docks.
Yeah.
Docks do hold big trout year round. Shallow docks. I rarely will catch big trout, like 28 plus inch trout, on a deeper dock. But what makes it difficult fishing structure for big fish is the fish break you off most of the time.
Yeah.
So a lot of the fish you're going to land are going to be smaller fish.
That's why you like this big open area, huh? Oh, Deeks. Yeah, it was really cool. So earlier, before we started filming, we were targeting some big 40-inch snook, and they were way, way, way on like the other side of the flat. And what's so neat about fishing with healthy live bait, whether you got a pinfish or mullet, whatever it might be on there, and you're going after these trophy fish, they're trophy for a reason. And what was really cool is, dude, like, I don't know how many, you can even see it right here, Cody, I mean, how much line is off. I mean, we were down to almost nothing, and these baits were right in their face. That was one of the first times I did that with you, and you're like, let it keep going, let it keep going. Another 80 yards out.
You could set it 300 plus yards.
It was crazy, but we got it right in the honey hole, and next thing you know, boom, big old trout. A 27-inch trout that hit, like, it seemed like a mile away.
And they're cool. Some of these fish are pushing 20 years old, like the big snook, and the big trout are over 10. They've been fished a lot, so they know how far to stay away from the presence of a boat. So you get it out there 300 yards, they're not really nervous anymore, and they're going to eat your bait.
So smart. So how did you figure all this stuff out?
Just trial and error, and it really helps when you spend a lot of time on the water. You know, I grew up fishing a bunch, but I guide a lot. So fishing with customers day in and day out, you get to experiment and you discover a lot of neat things. And one of which is, I notice if your clients, if the one guy lets his bait go farther than the others, he gets hit first, right? So it's like, oh, let's try doing that. And then you start positioning your day around fishing the spots on the right tide. Make sure that the wind and the current are going together. It's going to carry your bait to where the fish are.
Yeah.
You don't just put your boat where the fish are. Put your boat off the fish, and you let the current take your bait to the fish.
Talk about casting too. I remember earlier when we were going after those snook, you know, a couple times we planted them right near them, and they kind of spooked off.
They do.
But because we were so far away, they came right back.
Make really long casts. A short cast to a fish is going to spook them off, mainly because we're using these big old baits. You know, you throw out a big old mullet that's 8 inches long, 10 inches long, he's going to spook those fish.
Dude, mine's getting really antsy.
It's probably getting close to where you got that last strike.
Oh, baby. I don't know, I feel like he's over more to the left now.
That's okay. There's a little ditch over there.
So what's like the number one thing that your clients want to catch? Is it snook, red trout?
What I'm kind of known for is big trout and big snook.
Yeah.
So people come from all over to catch big trout and big snook.
There goes a big mullet. It's a hog leg right there.
But I love fishing for everything. But this technique will allow you to catch numbers of larger fish. It's not like you're going to go out and fish all day and never get a bite.
Way over there.
Right over top of you.
Dang. All right, so I'm going to... He's
That's perfect. So you see what Joe just did. He was freelining his bait. He had a bunch of loose line out there, right? You didn't know where your bait was.
No, I had no idea.
So you reeled it up tight. You know exactly where he's at now. You slingshot him back out there. So he just covered a lot of water for you trying to find those fish.
Earlier, too, you had the one episode where all of a sudden you went to, like, you knew something was on, but it was... the snook had actually basically inhaled your line.
Oh.
That was crazy. So talk about that.
So this happens a lot when you're fishing schooling fish, and sometimes you don't even realize it because you'll catch the fish, but...
Oh.
You getting bit?
Come on. He's getting antsy.
So we were in big schools of snook, so they were laid out up on these flats. And same thing with trout and redfish. If there's a bunch of them around and you're freelining your line out, so your line's laying loose in the water, a lot of times the fish will actually breathe in your line and not eat your bait. So your bait's over here, and one of the fish breathes in your line in his mouth. He then swims off because he's panicked. He's got line in his mouth. So you think you have a fish. So you're reeling, fighting this fish, and it's out there splashing around, and eventually that line will come out of his mouth. You think you lost a big fish, right? But you're reeling your bait and it was never eaten. So that happens fairly frequently when you're fishing this technique through bigger schools of fish.
And we could see him spook off too.
Yeah.
We're like, something just happened.
Giant snook swim down the bar and your bait's trailing behind him. And it can be a little frustrating too, especially if you hook a big fish and his buddy's got the line in his mouth and your line breaks.
Are we over each other there?
No, you're back.
All right.
You're going to get eaten. Something's running your bait. He just swam 30 yards left.
Yeah, he's still super active. Super active. Oh, this is so cool, man. This is how you go elephant hunting, guys. Active live bait management. Bail open. That first one was so cool, man.
Yeah.
We got to pluck another one off. So let's talk about the lateral lines. That's something that the very first time that we filmed that live bait mastery with you, I learned so much about that. And you were, those of you who don't know Captain Peter's story, I mean, he was studying to be a doctor, right? And then was it one of your professors that kind of got you into? Is that the whole story, or am I way off about lateral lines?
And sure. Yeah. I took a class with Dr. James Small, went to Rollins College.
Dr. Small.
Dr. Small. And he loved fish, and he would teach these little side classes, which were super cool, and they would study fish. And in one class, we studied the lateral line. And so lateral line on the fish, on a snook, for instance, you can see that big black line, right? That's just a marking that goes down the actual lateral line, but all fish have one.
Yeah.
And how it works is, let me put this rod in the rod holder.
Oh, you're doing the cardinal sin.
It's fine. So envision like a PVC pipe, a closed pipe that runs down the length of the lateral line. And then every so often there'll be a hole in that pipe, so a hole drilled in that pipe. Inside of that pipe, you've got a bunch of little hairs. And so when water pressure from anything, whether it's you splashing or a leaf falling in the water, anything, any kind of water pressure will go through those little holes, and then it'll actually bend those little hairs inside that lateral line. It works very similar to how your ear works. So they can hear underwater by feeling water pressure. So when you're fishing, that fish is aware of everything. The boat, your line moving through the water, your bait fish, they can feel it. They can feel how far away it is. They can feel how strong it is. And so they're very aware of their surroundings. And so I think where you're going with that is your line, right?
Yep.
Your line presence. So this is something that a lot of people don't realize. It's the same for lures if you're fishing with bait. If you're just fishing in general, the fish feel your line in the water. And it's a bigger presence than you think it is. So even though your line is really thin and it's small, when your line, let's just say you're fishing your bait. So my bait is bigger, it's going to pull a little bit harder. When I pull back on my bait, that line is pulling a lot of water, and they feel it. So they don't know if your line is a giant net in the water. They don't know if it's a rope or if it's a boat. They just feel a lot of water moving towards them, and they're going to spook off. So the bigger fish are very aware of your line. So if you're fishing a live bait, it allows you to keep your line loose, and your bait swims away from the boat. So you're getting your bait's active, you're going to get the strike, and because of your line is loose. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you're using a lure, in order to make your lure active, you have to jerk your line, right?
Yeah.
So every time you jerk your line, that fish feels that line. So if you're sight fishing redfish on a shoreline and you throw a lure a little bit past them and in front of them, if you jerk it, he'll feel that line before he sees your bait, and a lot of times he'll spook out. That's why it's really important to kind of slow roll it, reel it really smooth through the water to keep your line presence down. So that's in my opinion, that's why you don't catch a lot of the larger fish on lures. Not because they won't eat the lure, but the only way that you can keep that lure active is by moving your line, and the fish can feel that.
So am I right that kind of the larger, obviously the older they are, we know that. Do they have more sensitive lateral lines as they age, or they just wiser fish? and not as aggressive to bite anything that moves in front of their face. They're more alert. What do you think?
I think the reason why the fish is old is because he was able to stay alive that long, because in his system, whether it was learned or it's just genetically in him, he knows how to not get caught. And not that he knows it or he learned it, he just doesn't. So maybe his behavior is, whenever I feel line, I swim away. And so now he's 15 years old and it's a 10-pound trout. So I don't know if it's because they're learned by overfishing and it's a smart fish, or just his behavior, what he likes, what he doesn't like, has kept him from getting caught. I think I might have just got picked up.
Oh, dude, come on. Yeah, I feel like I'm in the zone too.
He jumped.
Yeah, my guy is super antsy right now.
So I've noticed a lot of the places that I catch my biggest trout, they're in like little corners and little crevices and little areas where it's almost impossible to fish them. So you figure out a technique that you can effectively fish them in that environment, and then you catch them. But like the traditional way of going along with your trolling motor, casting a lure, or even using bait, a lot of times you won't catch the big ones because they don't put themselves in that environment.
Let's talk about tail hook versus mouth, head. If you're, pinfish, there's a few different ways to hook it. What have you found to be the most effective?
So it really depends on the bait. If you want them to swim away from you, hook them in the tail. Because any kind of tension that you have on your line, accidental tension, just because of the weight of the line, it's going to make your bait swim away from the tension, which is where the boat is, and he's going to swim away from the boat. If you hook him in the nose, your hookup ratio is a lot better, but he's going to be pulled towards the tension, so he's not going to swim as far away from the boat.
Yeah.
But a bait like a mullet, you want him up on the surface, so you hook him in the tail, the weight's going to be down on his tail, and he's going to be swimming up on the surface. A bait like a pinfish or a pigfish, they naturally need to be on the bottom. They want to be on the bottom, and that's where the trout and the snook and the redfish are looking for them. If they see a pinfish, most fish, if they see a pinfish on the surface trying to swim up, they won't eat it because it's unnatural. So if you hook a pinfish in the tail with a big hook, it's going to make him want to swim up to the surface because he's going to get tired. So a bottom baits, usually you want to hook them in the nose because it'll keep them happy on the bottom. You just want to make sure you fish heavier current where you can free line them into the current.
All right, let's talk about leader. Okay. A lot of debate on mono versus fluoro, what size. I know you like to...
Let me show you something real quick.
Yeah.
Fluorocarbon all the way.
He's a fluoro man. Oh, mine's getting antsy. Come on, baby. Something nail it. Toughest part about filming live is getting the fish to bite while they're filming. It's like as soon as we turn the camera off,
yeah,
I'm gonna get jacked.
And we're using giant bait, so like the only thing we're gonna get to bite is gonna be these giant fish.
All right, so what do we got here?
Okay, so fluorocarbon's expensive, right? That's why a lot of people don't use fluorocarbon. Yep. Fluorocarbon's incredible. Berkeley Vanish, you can buy them in these giant spools. This is made to be put on a reel, but I use it as leader. So this is cheap.
Compared to the leader. And we did a video on that, and it's kind of like, is this a marketing ploy or what? Because we couldn't, and we just did a homemade sandpaper kind of a thing, but there was no difference.
Right.
And in many cases, that was outperforming in terms of abrasion resistance than the actual so-called leader line.
There's a process that they can turn fluorocarbon harder, and they call it leader fluorocarbon. And when you're fishing for big snook or tarpon, I do recommend it. It does hold up a little bit more. But if you're going to fish with trout, like we're fishing for mainly here, we're using 30-pound fluorocarbon. I don't know the exact price of this stuff, but this is 350 yards, and I'll bet you can buy this for probably the same price as buying 25 yards of hardened fluorocarbon. And it's 100% fluorocarbon. This is some really good stuff. This saves me a ton of money every year.
Cool. All right. And so what diameter is it?
This is 30.
And then you do 50 at the end?
Yeah, so we're fishing for giant fish. We're going to catch some really big ones today. So we've got 30-pound fluorocarbon. It goes about 4 or 5 feet long. And then we've got about a foot of 50-pound hardened fluorocarbon for those giant snook. If you're fishing for just trout, you can get away with about 20-pound and just running it straight to your hook.
Got it. That's in case we get a big old snooky, huh?
I mean, we're going to get a big snooky.
Oh, yeah. Maybe not on film, but we are going to get one today. Yeah, we're actually going to head over to the inlet a little bit later as well. But for now, this is kind of a perfect spot. It's kind of a windy day too, and so we're a little bit out of it. There goes Deeks reeling down.
Just open it up. It's easy as that.
Boomerang. Boomerang. So you mentioned earlier, trout and snook are your two big ones. What are some kind of snook tips along this same line? I got to see it earlier, so that was pretty cool, but for the people that missed it, what kind of, depth, flats, what are you looking for? Obviously, find them. We found them. We had to drive around for a little bit, and you go slow around. What kind of areas?
So it really depends on where you live, but you can find the big snook in the inlets. You can find them up on sandbars, you find them around islands, you find them up along the mangroves. The mangroves are a great place, but you do want to find, if you're fishing for big ones, you want to visually see the big snook.
Yep.
You really do, it's important. So like we'll go along a mangrove shoreline and you're going to see lots of snook, but they're going to be that like 28, 30 inches or smaller. You want to find where the big ones are, and when you find big ones, they're all big ones, right?
What does big mean to you?
Like 40 inches plus. So like today, like where we saw the 40 inches, did you see any smaller ones?
No, they're
all big ones.
All super thick.
So then once we go along, we find them, we'll back off, and then we'll free line our baits right through them.
Cool. All right, I think my bait is dying. So let's wrap it up. We'll film another one of these maybe on the over the inlet or something, do something different. Now that we got one trout here and 20. Well, heck, it was the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But man, this has been super, super helpful. Hope you guys loved this. Just being able to see more on the water, how to do it. Who would have thought you would have caught a trout in the first couple minutes? That was pretty rad. But we'll do more of these. Let us know what kind of questions that you have. Ooh, my bait's taking off. Of course, that'll happen right at the end. Let us know what kind of questions you have. Any other types of species or scenarios that you want to see. Let us know. We love to hear from you. We're going to put a whole blog post together on this at saltstrong.com/podcast, or of course, just go to saltstrong.com and look at the fishing tip section. Of course, to book you, is it even possible anymore? You booked out like a year in advance?
Booked out quite a bit, but if you call, I've got some good friends that are captains that I can refer people out to.
Peter is guys like Bill Dance and stuff, Johnny Morris, they want to go out with Peter Deeks.
Smoke and mirrors.
Dude knows how to put you on some fish. We're going to catch some more big ones. That was super fun, Deeks.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, man. And, dude, something's...
We'll bump up here and we'll see if we can grab a few more, and then we'll go hammer out some bigger fish.
All right, stay tuned for social media and Instagram. We'll put a couple pics up from what we're catching here. We out. Peace.
Pa-pow.
Hey there, it's Joe Simons, one of the co-founders here at Salt Strong, and have you claimed your free pack of these irresistible Slam Shady paddle tail lures? We designed this lure with over 12,000 serious inshore anglers, including many full-time guides, to go out there and catch more redfish, more speckled trout, more snook, more flounder, more inshore saltwater slams. And if you want a free pack to try out a sample yourself, click down below right now. We have one free pack per angler while supplies last. Click down below right now.